Mass surveillance is not about public safety. It is not about terrorism. It is about power. It is about economic espionage. It is about diplomatic manipulation, and it is about social influence.
Just like so long as a whale is worth more dead than alive and a tree is worth more as lumber than as a tree, in this model on technology, social media today, we're worth more when we're addicted, distracted, outraged, polarized, and disinformed, because that means that we have been successfully influenced to use these products and to be successful for advertisers.
And all of this shadow operation will remain hidden because you will not ask questions, because you're so busy being entertained.
Welcome. Good to have you back. Computing all this data keeps boring me out, but I found some interesting pieces to show you. Last time, we were looking into phones and how their use can be addictive. If you feel somehow affected, you might like this. The addiction to phones is not your own fault, because many of the services you are using on it are designed to get you addicted over time. Your attention is so valuable that these devices like you better when you are addicted than not. So let's look into the concept of the attention economy.
A lot of people think Google's just a search box and Facebook's just a place to see what my friends are doing. What they don't realize is there's entire teams of engineers whose job is to use your psychology against you.
You say it's bad for me as an individual. Is it bad for me because I'm addicted? Have I become chemically hooked?
You have. The founders of the great Silicon Valley spying empires like Facebook have publicly declared that they intentionally included addictive schemes in their designs. Now, we have to say, this is what I would call almost a stealthy addiction. It's a statistical addiction. What it says is, we will get the broad population to use the services a lot. We'll get them hooked through a scheme of rewards and punishment. And the rewards are when you're retweeted. The punishment is when you're treated badly by others online. And then within that, we'll very gradually start to leverage that to change them. So it's this very kind of stealthy manipulation of the population. So it's not as dramatic as a heroin addict or a gambling addict, but it is the same principle.
I think there's something very profound and maybe irreversible happening to human attention in the digital age. I think it's more than just distraction, and it's more than even just addiction. It could actually be the defining political and moral challenge of our time in grappling with this issue. So I want to start with kind of clearing the ground with an observation that Herbert Simon made in the 1970s. When information becomes abundant, attention becomes the scarce resource. We're only just starting to understand what it means for human life and society. I think a great deal of confusion about the role of digital technologies in the world today comes from the lack of taking this observation into account. And because attention is the scarce resource now, it's now the thing that our technologies mostly compete for. So this attention that we're giving each other right now is literally the object of competition for these things in our pockets. But this whole environment that has emerged in the last several years to compete for our attention in scientific, systematic ways is often called the attention economy. And in the attention economy, our technologies are trying to grab our attention and direct it toward the goals that they have. And often those goals are quite different from our own. If you think about the goals that you have for yourself, I want to spend more time with family. I want to learn how to play the piano. I want to take that trip I've been thinking about and reflect on my life. You know, these are real human goals. But if you look at the goals that technologies have for us, maximize the amount of time we spend, or the number of clicks, the number of times we can scroll or tap, the number of page views on, or ad views, things like this. Working in the advertising industry, if any of you have worked in this space, this might be obvious, but this, there's a deep fundamental gap here between the goals we have and the goals our technologies have for us. And to me, Like, that's the opposite of what technology is for. Technology is for helping us achieve these goals. I think there is this kind of inconvenient truth that we either kind of ignore or maybe don't know about a lot of the time, which is that the attention economy, by and large, is not on our side. Like, its goals are not our goals.
So, do you want to be part of the attention economy? These days, it's not easy to decide for yourself, when computers have become pretty good at convincing you anyways.
When you say that they keep us addicted, and that's part of tech companies' business model, explain that.
Yeah, well, we think that, we're the customer and they're just offering us a product, but really, how much have you paid for your Instagram account or your Facebook account recently? Not very much, zero. So how are they worth $500 billion? Or they make money from our attention and our behavior. They need us to spend lots of time on the service. And they have to, we call it the race to the bottom of the brainstem, that who is willing to go lower on the brainstem to get that attention.
Right.
So a person who's checking addictively is worth more. Are you checking your phone right now? No, I'm kidding. The person's worth more if they're addictively checking their phone, like a slot machine. Sometimes you pull that slot machine, you get something nice, you get those 5 new likes or rewards. Other times you pull the refresh and you don't get anything. And it's that randomness that makes it so addictive.
Right. So who is the customer?
The customer is the advertiser. They're the ones that are paying for all this to happen. And so long as that's true, we're worth more when we use the products in certain ways, because outrage, narcissism, addiction, polarization, disinformation are all profitable. You shouldn't feel like it's your fault when you feel so addicted to your phone, because there's a massive asymmetry between the 1,000 people behind the screen and the supercomputers that are pointed at our brains to try to predict the perfect thing to get us to stay longer. Hopefully that's illuminating and clarifying to people and gives us back some agency.
The attention economy is guided by design principles that are essential to its functioning. We will call them the principles of persuasive technology. So let's take a look at this idea of persuasive technology.
Everything you said, it's sad to me because it's happening not by accident, but by design. Because the business model is to keep people engaged, which in other words, this hearing is about persuasive technology. And persuasion is about an invisible asymmetry of power. When I was a kid, I was a magician. And magic teaches you that you can have asymmetric power without the other person realizing it. You can masquerade to have asymmetric power while looking like you have an equal relationship. You say, pick a card, any card, while meanwhile you know exactly how to get that person to pick the card that you want. And essentially what we're experiencing with technology is an increasing asymmetry of power that's been masquerading itself as an equal or contractual relationship where the responsibility is on us. So let's walk through why that's happening. In the race for attention, because there's only so much attention, companies have to get more of it by being more and more aggressive. I call it the race to the bottom of the brainstem. So it starts with techniques like pull to refresh. So you pull to refresh your newsfeed. That operates like a slot machine. It has the same kind of addictive qualities that keep people in Las Vegas hooked to the slot machine. Other examples are removing stopping cues. So if I take the bottom out of this glass and I keep refilling the water or the wine, you won't know when to stop drinking. So that's what happens with infinitely scrolling feeds. We naturally remove the stopping cues, and this is what keeps people scrolling. But the race for attention has to get more and more aggressive. And so it's not enough just to get your behavior and predict what will take your behavior. We have to predict how to keep you hooked in a different way. And so it crawled deeper down the brainstem into our social validation. So that was the introduction of likes and followers. How many followers do I have? And that got it was much cheaper to, instead of getting your attention, to get you addicted to getting attention from other people. And this has created the kind of mass narcissism and mass cultural thing that's happening with young people, especially today. And in the race for attention, it's not enough just to get people addicted to attention. The race has to migrate to AI. Who can build a better predictive model of your behavior? And so if you give an example of YouTube, so there you are, you're about to hit play on a YouTube video, and you hit play, and then you think you're gonna watch this one video, and then you wake up 2 hours later and say, oh my God, what just happened? And the answer is because you had a supercomputer pointed at your brain. And at the moment you hit play, it wakes up an avatar voodoo doll-like version of you inside of a Google server. And that avatar, based on all the clicks and likes and everything you've ever made, those are like your hair clippings and toenail clippings and nail filings that make the avatar look and act more and more like you. So that inside of a Google server, they can simulate more and more possibilities. If I prick you with this video, if I prick you with this video, how long would you stay? And the business model is simply what maximizes watch time.
This leads to the kind of algorithmic extremism that you've pointed out. And this is what's caused 70% of YouTube's traffic now to be driven by recommendations, not by human choice, but by the machines. And it's a race between Facebook's voodoo doll, where you flick your finger, can they predict what to show you next, and Google's voodoo doll. And these are abstract metaphors that apply to the whole tech industry, where it's a race between who can better predict your behavior. Facebook has something called loyalty prediction, where they can actually predict to an advertiser when you're about to become disloyal to a brand. So if you're a mother and you take Pampers diapers, they can tell Pampers, hey, this user is about to become disloyal to this brand. So in other words, they can predict things about us that we don't know about our own selves. And that's a new level of asymmetric power. And we have a name for this asymmetric relationship, which is a fiduciary relationship or a duty of care relationship. The same standard we apply to doctors, to priests, to lawyers. Imagine a world in which priests only make their money by selling access to the confession booth to someone else. Except in this case, Facebook listens to 2 billion people's confessions, has a supercomputer next to them, and is calculating and predicting confessions you're going to make before you know you're going to make them. And that's what's causing all this havoc.
In this session, we looked at some new concepts: the attention economy, persuasive technology, and the role of artificial intelligence. Later, it might be interesting to watch how these concepts evolve and shape the future. But first, let's see what individuals can do about the things we just learned. If everyone wants your attention, it might be in your best interest to take care for it yourself. Now, this may sound difficult, but fortunately, it is in your hands. So let's see next how this could be done.